Matt Brown in for Michael Lombardi today, and I can tell that no time has passed between the two of us because you're still cursing like a sailor at the television in commercial breaks. It's great.
Listen, one, that's pulling back the curtain a little and revealing a little bit too much about
VSiN
me as a human.
Sign up, don't forget.
Much as a human. VSiN Pro subscription, and then you do the /Stormy, and then then
there you
that's
go.
it. Yeah,
that's
you get that one. Look, the golf not going great for me. Well, I mean, look. My guys are in second and third, but
and it's
they
came in 125 to 1.
But they came in 1-2, and then now this Matt Wallace guy is just lighting up the course. And it's like, go away, Matt Wallace. Go back to England, buddy. Go back to England. I saw a little English flag next to his name. Get out of here with all that nonsense.
All I know is earlier I looked up at the screen and I said, uh-oh.
Yeah, and splash.
Yeah. Lots of NFL talk that we're going to get to, as well as some draft conversation. Thor Nystrom, college football and NFL draft analyst, is going to join us in about 15 minutes. And earlier, just before the break, Matt and I went through our top 5 teams that need to win the offseason. By the way, if you missed any of hour 1, the show is always downloadable in podcast form wherever you get your podcast. But I was surprised to see that both of us left one team off of our top 5s, which very easily could have made it, in the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good place to start as we get into some quarterback question marks, certain teams, what they need to do at the position, because there are a lot of quarterback needy teams right now, and the Patriots are one that is at the top of that list.
Yeah, it's because they have no shot. So, I didn't think that there's any reason for them to really need to get this offseason correct. But, listen, if we're talking about what they need to do at the quarterback stage, it's Drake May or Jaden Daniels, one of the two. Whoever's left. Whoever's left is who you take, and that's what you do. That's how you move on here. I mean, I don't think there's any debate on this whatsoever. I know that there's people who say they love to trade and maybe they'll listen to offers and all that. If we have seen, if you do not have a quarterback, you cannot win in the NFL. It is worth taking a swing. If you miss, that means you suck and you get a high pick again. So it's just the cycle that you have to go through. I think it would be a massive, massive mistake for them to pass at quarterback at 3. So,
what kind of a number did just Matt Patricia and Joe Judge do on Mac Jones? Because his offense, his rookie year, he was a runner-up for Offensive Player of the Year. He was like a $4 favorite until late in the season when your boy Jamar Chase just took over. He was good. They were a playoff team. And then things have just fallen apart precipitously because you had defensive coaches coaching that side of the ball. And then last year with Bill O'Brien, when you think that there should be some improvement, at least back to maybe where he was his rookie season, it completely goes away. And I love Alex Van Pelt for saying that all things are on the table when it comes to Mac Jones, but that's not reality.
No, they moved on. They moved on last year. They told him basically, hey, man, you're done. You're done as our quarterback here. And so I don't think you can reset that. You take whichever quarterback's left at 3. That's just all there is to it. You move on. You have the rookie deal. If it works out, awesome. Then you have your quarterback for the next 10 years. If it doesn't work out, it's fine. That means you're terrible and you get to start over.
Okay. We talked a little bit about the Steelers in hour 1. If it was up to Terry Bradshaw, we learned Kenny Pickett is certainly the guy. If it's Chad Ochocinco's sources correct, the Steelers are getting Russell Wilson. You like Justin Fields. Yeah. That's a name that's been talked aplenty. Who do you think is the quarterback for the Steelers next?
I'm going to say Justin. I think Justin Fields is the right dude for the job for them in this. And listen, I think he brings a dynamic to that team that you really haven't seen in a very long time. Remember, if you're a Steelers fan, which, there's a lot of Steelers fans out there, you had a statue at quarterback for a very long time. I mean, Big Ben was a lot of things, and he's a Hall of Fame. Yes, but I mean, he was a lot of things. Mobile, he was not. It was not one of those things. And so you would actually get a different type of offense. You actually get a different look from this Steelers team that you just literally hadn't seen in 20 years. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger was there forever. And so I like the thought of Justin Fields with those guys and see, put him around some real talent for the first time and see what he can do.
I like Justin Fields for the Falcons, personally. A similar situation in terms of all the weapons.
Got me a different guy for the Falcons.
Okay.
Got me a different guy for the Falcons.
Well, let's go there. Okay, Atlanta.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins. For sure.
Kirk Cousins. Why?
Kirk Cousins should be the Falcons quarterback. If you're Kirk Cousins, you should look at this. You are towards the end of your career. What is the easiest path for you to possibly contend for a Super Bowl? Go to a team that is in the easiest division in all of football. You have the Packers that are on the up. You don't know for sure, if you go back to the Vikings, that you are going to be able to compete with the Lions and the Packers. I mean, the Lions are already good. The Packers are on the up. You might be the third best team in that division. Now you go in and you're the Falcons. You step in. You've got Bijan Robinson. You've got Kyle Pitts. You've got Drake London already waiting there for you. You've got a pretty decent defense. If you guys didn't pay attention to the Falcons last year, they actually had a top 12 defense in the NFL over the course of the season. And for a while there, they were top 8 defense over the course of the season. So you go in, you step in from day one. It is your best shot to go win a Super Bowl at this advanced stage of Kirk Cousins' career. And you're stepping into a situation with weapons. It's not like he's going in and it's like a bad team, right? He has guys to throw to. He has playmakers. And you can win that division, get in the tournament, and go and try and play for a Super Bowl.
I think for all of the reasons you laid out, Atlanta's a great destination for pretty much anyone with any form of tools at the quarterback position because of the division that you're playing in. But with Minnesota, they're still a $2 favorite for Kirk Cousins to come back. You know that Kevin O'Connell has said numerous times that he would like to bring Kirk Cousins back. He was having a career year before he popped the Achilles.
Yes.
And based on his dance moves at NFL Honors, he is doing just fine in the recovery process right now.
Top 5 by every metric, by the way. Like when he went down, top 5 by every metric in the NFL.
And so I know he's getting older, but to your point, he was having a tremendous season. He likes being there. His family's comfortable there. Do you not, like, I could foresee him even, like, I don't know what kind of contract that he's out there trying to get, but I feel like if there are similar offers that are on the table, he would prefer to stay put.
Yeah, I mean, now the stuff's coming out that
Is
they're
it guarantees?
saying that
important?
Apparently Minnesota doesn't want to give him guarantees and doesn't want to give him a fully guaranteed contract. And you know, if you're Kirk Cousins, again, we talk about this. This is the last deal, most likely, right? Like, I mean, whatever he gets is going to be his last deal here, and so he wants that, and I can understand it. When you start to look around and see what other guys get, you kind of want something in line with what they're getting. It's funny because we have the Vikings on the list, and I have Kirk Cousins twice on here because he's the best fit for the Vikings, but I also feel like he's the best fit for the Falcons.
I don't know, what do the Vikings do if not Kirk Cousins?
Yeah, then exactly. That's why I think one of these other guys, whenever we're talking about like where did these guys end up, and like we're saying, is there a chance Russell Wilson doesn't start next year? No, because as the dominoes fall, there will be teams who look up and go, oh man, we got left out. Oh, man, we got left.
Okay, so speaking of Russell Wilson, the Broncos are in a pretty tough situation because they've still got to pay him. He's guaranteed $39 million, and there's nothing that they can do about that. What's next at the position for Denver?
Man, this is like tough for me to say because I'm having to rely a lot on guys that are true talent evaluators. So I have to separate what I saw with my eyes, and you're going to have to separate being a college football girl, what you saw with your eyes. And we have to go with what these talent evaluators who are paid to, can this guy project to what we want as an NFL quarterback? They've got the 12th pick in the draft. I think you probably reach for J.J. McCarthy. And you take J.J. McCarthy, and he ends up being your starter. And it kind of goes back to the same thing we're talking about with, if you swing and miss, so be it. You find yourself back at the top of the draft anyway. You can kind of start over. If you hit, again, like if you hit, then you're good at the quarterback position for 10 years, and like that is where you really have to go you kind of have to take some gambles here with all of this. And I didn't see a ton of that in college. Now, he wasn't asked to do a ton of that in college. The team was so good. They ran the ball so effectively and their schedule was so poor that like he just wasn't asked to go win games.
I know, but it's just interesting with his head coach being Jim Harbaugh and knowing how he is with quarterbacks that he didn't give him the opportunity to do a little bit more. And to your point, they didn't need to. But you would think, I don't know, Jim is obviously very, very high on J.J. McCarthy. He said, don't be surprised if he goes number 1 overall. I would be surprised.
I mean, there's all these other guys that are
this
like
will be
scouts.
A good conversation with Thor, though, coming up, because he's someone, too, who is an evaluator. The draft is like his biggest thing that he works on all year long. And he is a big fan of J.J. McCarthy. So we'll see where he believes that J.J. will be available. Let's go to the Raiders here because Jimmy G, because of the PED suspension, he's going to miss some time to start next season. He's he's going to get released by the Raiders. Aiden O'Connell, if that 3-0 game has shown us anything, he's not the answer at quarterback for Vegas either. So are they willing to be aggressive and move up in the draft and get one of those big 3 quarterbacks? Or if not, do they want to J.J. McCarthy? Yeah. Like, where do you sit on Vegas?
I think they would love to move up. I don't think they're going to be able to. And I think that's why I said, I think this is a good spot for Russ to land, right? It's a team that's not built to win today anyway. So what is the harm in signing Russell Wilson for league minimum? Because that's the other thing. You get him for league minimum because the Broncos have to cover the rest of it, right? And so it's like, you get him for nothing. And he comes in and maybe there's something left in the tank. You and I don't necessarily think so, But I think that is not out of the realm of possibility that the Broncos are just a horrible situation for him. Sean Payton came in, and he was forced on Sean Payton. Sean Payton didn't want him, and it just was not a good relationship. It didn't work out. I think that is at least in the realm of possibilities, and that Russell has at least a little bit left in the tank. But if you're the Raiders, who cares anyway? Because you're not going to win this year.
I do wonder, though, how high Antonio Pierce is on Jaden Daniels, who he knows very, very well from their time at Arizona State at the same time. Like, if that's someone that he would be interested in trying to go fight for. It's his first year. You're trying to make a point, make a statement about what you're going to bring to this team. And if he's somebody you love, do you try to be that aggressive?
I mean, I think they would love to be able to get a franchise quarterback in the draft. It's just, I just don't know if it's the opportunity is going to present itself.
Okay, 30 seconds. Yeah. Washington Commanders.
It's Drake May.
Has to be.
Yeah, Drake May. Bears, Caleb Williams. You know, like it's this. I think the only other one is like the Bucks, and I really do believe that it was a good fit with Baker. I mean, like it really was. He played pretty well. If you go look at the stats over the course of the year, he was 16th. I mean, he was league average, you know, and like what else do you expect out of Baker at this point?
Yeah, his season, like people were talking about him for comeback player of the year, and he was a nominee because his stats were so similar to Geno Smith the year prior. Like he had a good season.
He had a good year.
Is it replicable? Is his career rejuvenated? That is the question. Plenty more questions to be answered about the draft when we come back. Thor Nystrom is going to join us, get some of his perspective on who is the number 2 quarterback. Our guy Matt here thinks it's Drake May. Who does he think?
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi. Now here is your host, Stormy Bonatoni, on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Start your morning with a daily dose of winning strategies, insider tips, and the latest buzz with the free VSiN daily newsletter. In today's newsletter, lots of college hoops, including on the women's side. Our guy Tyler Shoemaker has a value bet for the women's tournament. Get expert analysis and the latest odds delivered straight to your inbox every single day, absolutely free. VSiN.com/newsletter is how you can subscribe.
Our video people out there, that is exactly what Bill looks like.
It's very accurate.
It is exactly what he looks like. If you were watching on the video feed, if you walk through any Vegas casino and you see someone that looks kind of like that, it is definitely
him.
Yeah,
that's him. And he will have a silver briefcase.
Yeah, you just walk up to him and be like, "You're Bill," and he'd be like, "I am Bill." How do you know? And be like, "From the cartoon." Yeah.
On that note, we are days away from the NFL Combine, 9 weeks from the NFL Draft. Thor Nystrom, NFL Draft college football analyst for Fantasy Pros, Betting Pros, and Fantasy Football Weekly, joins us now live on the Lombardi Line. And so you were tweeting about the movie Draft Day, obviously in preparation for this time of year. My question to you to get things started: is Caleb Williams Bo Callahan, or do the Bears have a sticky note in their pocket that says Caleb Williams no matter what? How are we treating this?
Well, you're coming out hot today.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have heard a couple people, that don't like Caleb as much. There are some talk about, is he the leader in the locker room? Last year, when the circumstance went the other way, why wasn't he pulling out of it? Why wasn't he modulating his game? I mean, if you were going to drop it on one of them, it'd probably be him. He is my QB1, so it's not my take, but I could see it.
Thor, if we take a look, and the big debate, I think, leading into all of this, there will be the hot take articles of Caleb Williams not going 1. He's going to go 1. I think we all believe he's going to go number 1. So I think the real debate heading into the draft is going to be, is there a real chance that it's not Drake May? Is it Jaden Daniels? What's going to happen with that number 2 pick? How does it go? Is it going to definitely go quarterback, all that? But I mean, when we look at that number 2 pick and you start to evaluate floor and ceiling with these different guys, how do you evaluate May and Daniels, and what do you think ends up eventually happening there with that 2 pick?
Yeah, that's well said. And to your point, the number 1 pick market, it's more or less correct, right? Like, I mean, I think the implied probability of Caleb Williams right now is 90% there. It's probably pretty close to 90%. So there's not a lot of value there unless you want to whet your beak on someone. There's only a couple names you could toss out, down the board, whatever. But number 2, that's where I think it starts to get interesting with these early prop markets and lines that we do have out. I think the odds are off on the number 2 one. Drake May has been forwarded as, number 2 with a bullet ever since, it's been over a year for, now, whatever. And he's still favored, I think minus 140 or something like that in the market. I don't believe that he should be the betting favorite to go number 2 for a bunch of different reasons. I think Jaden Daniels should be, and I think JJ McCarthy should be closer to Drake May on the odds boards behind Jaden Daniels than certainly he is now. If you look, so Cliff Kingsbury obviously took the Commanders' OC job, and they're obviously going to be taking a quarterback. You look at the last 9 quarterbacks that Cliff Kingsbury has hand chosen or worked with, going all the way back to his time at Houston when he was the offensive coordinator for Case Keenum. The next year at Texas A&M with Johnny Manziel. At Texas Tech, he worked with Baker Mayfield, Pat Mahomes. NFL, Kyler Murray, he chose him number 1 overall, was sort of an unprecedented pick. Last year, he turned out more money, more prestigious job, so he could coach Caleb Williams, who probably is not going to be fine to the number 2 pick. Long way to say, this Cliff Kingsbury, he likes guys that both can win inside of structure, but he fetishizes out of structure play. The worst of the 4 top quarterbacks out of structure, under pressure, different stuff like that, it's Drake May. The better ones, Daniel certainly I think is a fit, but I think the under the radar one for sure. I think JJ McCarthy fits that offense and what he looks for like a glove. I'm not saying he's going to go number 2, McCarthy, but I'm absolutely saying that the odds as they're put out right now are off with regards to that. I would be betting both Daniels and McCarthy for that second pick.
Very interesting. Can you talk a little bit more about JJ McCarthy, though, and what makes him somebody that's high on your board? I know Jim Harbaugh thinks that he should go number 1 overall, but your thoughts?
Yeah, it's this incredible out of structure, out of the pocket, throwing without his platform prospect who comes out of high school. He fit JJ McCarthy. He fit his skill set into a traditional pro style offense. Obviously, for an NFL staff, they ended up winning the national title last year when JJ McCarthy was 20 years old as a third-year junior. I think the thing that's not discussed enough is how JJ McCarthy was able to become the in structure kind of quarterback for Harbaugh's system. Well, you also saw the other elements of his skill set, which we're certainly going to be seeing a lot more going forward in the NFL. Michigan last year had 21 plus point lead in 10 of their 15 games. JJ McCarthy didn't take 1 fourth quarter snap in 7 of the 15. That's the reason why the volume stats aren't there. But when you look at the efficiency stuff, when you look at the grading stuff, or you just turn on the tape, that's where he becomes one of the top quarterbacks in this class. And like I said, that skill set, the strengths that JJ McCarthy has that are very unique about his profile, it's always what Cliff gloms onto. I'm not saying Cliff is going to be making that decision, but I think Cliff is going to be very interested in McCarthy.
Thor, when we look at McCarthy, I think he's going to be the guy that has the widest range when it comes to, these mock drafts. I know you grind them just like I do. And what do you feel the ceiling is for him? I mean, listen, we see Atlanta at 8 that definitely needs a quarterback. Denver at 12 that needs a quarterback. Vegas at 13 that needs a quarterback. Do you think we could see McCarthy go in that range to one of those guys? Listen, I know that some people think it's a stretch, but seems like you maybe don't think it's a stretch.
Not at all. JJ McCarthy is going to go in the top 8. I don't even need top 10. He's going to go in the top 8. If the Falcons, I think, are another team that they're going to be interested in JJ McCarthy. But I think at the end of the day, and I think Daniel Jeremiah even said this either today or yesterday on his media call, whatever, the idea about the 4 quarterbacks in the top 5, it's going to require a trade. But I could absolutely see that scenario. Because to me, it was forwarded to the public as, well, yeah, the Caleb Williams, QB1 with the ball, Drake May, QB2 with the ball, and then Jaden Daniels, he's also in tier 1. But I think it's 4 quarterbacks in that tier 1 that, that are sort of jockeying for position, whatnot. And yeah, the last one on the line, all of a sudden, that's out there, whatever, whether that's 4th, 5th pick, whatever. All of a sudden, you have all these teams. Obviously, the Chargers don't need a quarterback, but behind them, they potentially do. Starting with the Giants, then you go to the Falcons at 8. Then you have that grouping of the Vikings, the Broncos, the Saints and Raiders. I guess the Saints are going to bring back Carr, but you have all these teams that would seemingly be incentivized to move up. Several of them, McCarthy's a really good fit for. McCarthy would be an awesome fit in Kevin O'Connell's offense as well for the Vikings.
Well, you got me excited now for whenever these over under where a player is going to get drafted props to come out, because if we can get a good number and you take the under, that you're making me feel good about it. What about Maserati Marvin Harrison? Do you think that one of those top teams that's in the top 3, 4 says, no, we're not going to go with a big 3 quarterback, we want the receiver, and has a different approach? How do you feel?
Yeah, I do think he's going to go in the top 5. The talent is such, it's going to justify it, and he's going to put a stamp on that in Indianapolis with his 40 and different stuff at the dimensions that he does. The tape speaks for itself, and obviously the bloodlines do as well. I think, though, the odds boards are off on him as well, because right now, the last time I looked at it, the Cardinals were a 2-1 favorite to bring in Harrison. I'm not sure the team that ultimately will, but I do know this far out that you can't put a 2-1 on a team at 4, whatever. the Cardinals traded out last year when they got the enormous offer of Houston trying to move up the board, whatnot. And then, they maneuvered around the board. This was their first, the new administration's first draft. They ended up with Paris Johnson, whatever. You're going to get King's ransom offers in that 4 slot, because whether it's, Harrison, whether it is if a team wanted Alt and wanted to hop the Chargers, the Chargers, I think, are in on him, or more predictably, one of the quarterbacks, a team moving up like that. I think that's as good of a possibility as sticking and picking on this roster that is bereft of talent. So I think a trade. The teams beneath that, though, on the odds boards, I don't have a great alternative to toss out, but I would not like the 2-1.
Thor, we look at Brock Bowers and differing opinions on him as well. We've seen mocks out there that have him go as high as number 5 to the Chargers. We've seen some come out where he's in the low 20s. I don't think he makes it that far. I kind of think that the basement for him would be like 18 at Cincinnati. I think if he was sitting there for them, they would definitely scoop him up, add him to knowing that T. Higgins is going to be out of town after the franchise tag year. But do you honestly think he's in play at 5? I mean, don't the Chargers have more pressing needs? And at a tight end position, man, you better hit on a guy at 5 at tight end if you're going to take him that high.
It's the ubiquitous comp, but I agree with the way that you're setting that up. I don't think he's going to go number 5 to the Chargers, because the Chargers, first of all, you have too many holes. And if they were sticking and picking there, I think they would take the offensive tackle. You look back at Jim Harbaugh, his history and whatnot. I get why people are doing it, the Greg Roman offense, the tight ends, yada, yada, yada. But with all the roster that they need to overturn, Harbaugh coming in, the new administration and whatnot, you're not going to stick and pick a tight end at number 5, especially, like a guy that's not sort of the true inline guy. He's more of an offensive weapon. You move him around, manufacture touches. He can run the ball as well, different stuff like that. You love all that. I just would be shocked if the Chargers stayed at number 5 and took him there.
Thor, you're awesome. Thanks so much for doing this for us today, bud.
Appreciate y'all.
Thor Nystrom, again, does a great job covering the NFL draft, college football for fantasy pros, betting pros, and check out Fantasy Football Weekly at ThorKU on X is how you can follow him. We are going to hit the break here real quickly, though. When we come back, take a look at some early Offensive Player of the Year odds looking ahead to next year. Can CMC be the first repeat winner since 2001? Or can I talk Matt into this long shot wide receiver potentially?
All right.
I got some thoughts.
Let's do it.
We'll be right back on the Lombardi Line. Don't go anywhere. This is VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi. Now here is your host, Stormy Buonantony, on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
If you're looking for a betting edge on college basketball, the VSiN experts have got you covered. Become a VSiN Pro subscriber today. You'll get our daily best bet emails, 24/7 video access, the upcoming college hoops betting guide, bracket breakdowns, plus full access to VSiN.com with our exclusive betting splits on every game. VSiN.com/pro is how you can subscribe today. That's VSIN.com/pro. Matt Brown and Stormy Buonantony with you back here on the Lombardi Line. Sticking with the National Football League because, like I said off the top of the show, this is, if there was ever to be a year-round sport, it is the National Football League. We will be talking about this every single day, and it's never too early to look ahead at some of the odds that have become available. And on DraftKings, we have odds up now for Offensive Player of the Year. And producer Steph has tasked us with looking at some of these candidates and odds in tiers. And we're going to give who we like the most and who we like the least in each of these tiers, batch of 5 or so players at a time. Okay?
Yes.
Sound good?
Yes.
Let's do it. Tier 1, starting with the favorite and defending Offensive Player of the Year, Christian McCaffrey. By the way, there's not been a repeat winner since your boy and my boy, Marshall Faulk, 99 to 2001. He won it 3 times in a row. We got Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase. Who's your favorite?
Favorite, Tyreek Hill, mainly because he was in the mix all last year. I expect him to probably have a pretty similar season this year, and it goes back to the same thing you just said. I mean, like, they just don't want to give it to the same guy 2 years in a row. And so as long as he can put up comparable numbers, and there's really no reason to think that he can't in that offense, so long as Tua stays healthy, then he would be my favorite here in this tier.
My favorite also is reliant on health and reliant on just knowing who his quarterback is. But I love Justin Jefferson.
My least favorite.
Really?
My least favorite in the
He
tier.
was on pace this past year to have better numbers than he had when he won this award a couple years ago. Still finished with more yards than any player in NFL history who appeared in 10 games or fewer. So if he is able to stay healthy and hopefully has Kirk Cousins as his quarterback.
But that's the thing.
It is content. So
That's why we can't
I would
bet
say
him.
don't fire on Justin Jefferson today, but keep this in your back pocket that had the hammy been all good, he would have been soaring.
That's why we can't bet him. We don't know who's going to be throwing in the ball. You're going to feel good if it's Nick Mullins or whatever, whoever's on whatever, Jalen Hall or Jaron Hall or whatever it is. No, you're gonna hate it, and you're gonna hate that bet, and you're gonna feel terrible that you made this bet. So he's the worst.
I'm gonna make you feel bad. My least favorite is Jamar Chase. Suck on that.
Well, I mean, listen, it should be because it would be a great bet if for whatever reason they don't franchise T. Higgins, and then he's going to get so much volume that it could be like Tyreek Hill-esque.
But that's not the case. That's not what's going to happen.
But they're going to franchise. They're not going to let T. Higgins walk. So yeah, it's a bad one.
All right,
sure.
Tier 2. So now we're getting more up into the double digits here. Kyren Williams, Jonathan Taylor, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Saquon Barkley, Puka Nacua, Bijan Robinson, and Jalen Hurts. So a bigger batch here, but all of the odds 22-1 or higher.
Favorite?
Favorito.
Jalen Hurts. The least favorite, Jonathan Taylor. So the 30-1 attached to Jalen Hurts. People forget. I mean, he's still scoring a bunch of touchdowns last year. It was having a pretty good season for the vast majority of the season until things kind of, again, derailed there towards the end.
What about his head getting a little big with the contract talk?
I mean, you just back off a little bit. As long as he's still scoring touchdowns, it doesn't matter. We're trying to get 30-1 home. Well, Jonathan Taylor, for me, is mainly because you have Anthony Richardson coming back, and like Anthony Richardson's going to siphon off 8 carries a game, 9 carries a game, 10 carries a game. He's going to steal some of the touchdowns at the goal line too. So it's a counting stats award. And so whenever it all comes down to it, like your quarterback is your competition, and he's going to be stealing carries and stealing touchdowns from you. So Jonathan Taylor, my least favorite.
I think Jalen Hurts is very interesting, especially because I think of him more as an offensive player of the year candidate than I do as an MVP candidate. Yep. So I can get on board with that. My favorite is maybe not a hot take because he's the shortest one on this board, but I like Kyren Williams. Led the NFL in rushing yards per game, second among running backs in success rate, 4th in first downs, 6th in broken tackles, did miss 5 games, but was virtually unstoppable down the stretch. And if he can pick up where he left off, final 6 games coming back from injury, averaged 114.7 rush yards on 5.3 yards per carry. He was really good.
Some Rams this year, too.
Really good.
I like the Rams. I do. I like the Rams coming into the season. Kind of like one of those under-the-radar teams that I'm going to be paying a pretty close attention to as far as trying to bet this year. Is
Bijan Robinson intriguing at all just because he had a head coach that, for whatever reason, did not want to utilize him the proper way?
If I knew, it's kind of the same deal with Justin Jefferson. Like, if I knew who his quarterback was going to be, I would be more intrigued than I am now. But the fact of the matter is if they end up with some retread, right? Let's say they swing and miss on all of this stuff, right? They choose not to draft one, and they don't end up with a Fields or a Cousins or something, and they end up throwing Gardner Minshew out there or something, or Jacoby Brissett or whatever, or something. One of these guys that are eventually going to end up landing somewhere. Flacco. God forbid, but then no. I mean, but again, if it was Fields, if it was Cousins, if it was whatever, like Bijan would be much more intriguing to me at that number.
We can talk a little bit more about Bijan on the other side of the break, but he says that he's eyeing 2,000 yards this year. So just going to throw that out there. My least favorite would probably be Saquon, I guess, in this, just because I have no faith or confidence in anything about the Giants, especially offensively right now. Although, he is the centerpiece of that offense. So if there were somebody from the team to have success and win a postseason award, it would probably be him, but I don't believe in it.
If he lands with the Texans, then I think he's fairly interesting as well, because I think that offense showed what they could do last year. They're going to be in the market for a true wide receiver 1 as well to help out. And now if you've got going on with 2 really good secondary options in Collins and Tank Dell. And if you bring in a true wide receiver 1 with the way Stroud played, now you take that year 2 leap that we assume most of these guys do. If Saquon was in that mix, Saquon to me would be fairly interesting if he lands with the Texans, but again, he might not.
Depends on, again, another player with a lot of outside factors at play here. Tier 3, all of these odds are 35-1 to 40-1. Justin Fields, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Breece Hall, Anthony Richardson, Garrett Wilson, all them 35-1. Now the 40-1s, A.J. Brown, Devon Achane, and Devontae Adams.
Yeah, this is the worst tier, right? But I guess my favorite, Josh Allen, just strictly because the same. I mean, look, he can put up ridiculous numbers, right? I mean, like it's the guy can do it with his legs. He's going to have a lot of touchdowns just because he calls his own number next to the goal line a lot of times. So like he will have counting stats where at least he's.
I just have such a hard time betting Josh Allen anything because he's so turnover prone. Yeah. It's just so hard.
Yeah, I know. I hate this tier like altogether.
Okay.
The one that I hate though for sure is Breece Hall, and the reason being is. So one of the deals, and we talked about this heading into last year, but it didn't really pan out because Aaron Rodgers ended up not being the quarterback. But Aaron Rodgers historically has played at a ridiculously slow pace. Like he operates one of the slowest paced offenses in all of. Go back, you can look over the last 5 years. It doesn't matter. Like he drains a play clock. He's up there. He's trying to read defenses. Like naturally, his teams have fewer possessions. They have fewer chances to get big stat lines to go along with all of that. And then two, now you couple it with a really good defense, which they're going to have too. And so if you have that, you just find situations where I don't think there's going to be foot on the gas in some of these games and all that. And so for me, Breece Hall, I'm out on him because I don't know if there's going to be the opportunity for him to get it done.
So what about Garrett Wilson then from that
It would be the same. Yeah, it'd be the
same
same.
feeling?
It'd be the same. Yeah, it'd be the same feeling for him, especially if they're really are in the market, which they say they are, to like bring in another receiver.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and then you see Devontae Adams there at the bottom at 40-1, which Aaron Rodgers would like to be that guy. We talked about that a little bit earlier when we were doing our top 5 teams in the offseason that are under the most pressure to get it right. I said the Jets were in desperation mode.
Yes.
See, I can remember the word
now.
You got They're desperate. They're going to go all in, do everything they can so that Robert Saleh and them can keep their job. So I think Devontae Adams, that's something we should keep an eye on, certainly, because Aaron Rodgers runs the ship there. I like Devon Achane. Mm-hmm. If he stays healthy and can play at the level, anything similar to what he did this past year, I think that that's reasonable. I know that offensively they have a lot of tools at their disposal, so I'm not sure how likely that is. But of this tier, I would say he's the one that I like the most, and a good number at 40-1. How about tier 4? So now we're really stretching.
Yeah.
Jordan Love, Joe Burrow, Deebo Samuel, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Michael Pittman Jr., Rachaad White. Lots of quarterbacks in tier 4.
I mean, I guess the one I like the best is probably Deebo because there's that Ayuk factor that he may or may not be on the team. I mean, we assume he will, but there's at least a chance that he won't. And if that's the case, then Deebo's going to have to do everything right for this team. So I like Deebo a ton. The guy I hate the most in this tier is Patrick Mahomes, because if Patrick Mahomes plays good enough to win Offensive Player of the Year, he's going to win MVP. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're not going to give him Offensive Player of the Year. He's going to win MVP. So, like, for me, Patrick Mahomes is not.
I don't think any of the quarterbacks in this tier make sense.
Yeah, if they play well enough, they'll win the MVP. So yeah, for me, I'm out on Mahomes.
Yeah, I hate all the quarterbacks, so those are all my least.
Yeah.
But I'm right there with you on Deebo. Same thought process in my brain here at 40-1. And like we said at the top, Christian McCaffrey won it this past year, and it's because he's such a do-it-all player. He's so multifaceted, and so much in that offense revolves around him. We saw this year in the absences of Deebo Samuel on the field how important he is to making that thing go. He is another one of those straws that stirs the drink for the 49ers offense. So I think it's very reasonable to think that he could be a candidate there, especially at that number. Let's hit the break here. We're wrapping things up on the other side in the Lombardi line. Hit a couple other news and notes items, including Jeremy Fowler says that the Broncos could release Russell Wilson as soon as next week. Dive into that a little bit deeper and a whole lot more. Thanks for hanging out with us. This is the Lombardi Line on VSiN and DraftKings Network.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi. Now here is your host, Stormy Buonantony, on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This week on DraftKings Sportsbook, new customers can deposit $5 and get a no-sweat bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets if your first bet loses. Download the app and use the promo code VSiN when you sign up. That's VSIN. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. Always fun working with my guy, Matt Brown, kind enough to fill in today's. Michael Lombardi is getting a little well-deserved time off, although you mess with me constantly. So that's,
Listen, keeping you on your toes.
It is what it is.
Keeping you on your toes. You're not used to having someone in studio.
Yes.
So just keeping you on your toes.
I'm usually just in this glass box in silence by myself.
Iron sharpens iron, so we're just making sure.
Shout out our guy, Jonathan Davis, for tweeting into the show that we need an impromptu bets and consequences. I still owe you, I only lost one time.
You tried to kill me. You tried to kill me.
Ended before I got the opportunity
you tried to kill me.
do yeah.
We'll just kind of sort of bring that up that you tried to kill me because you gave me the death chip.
So, for the record, if anybody who's seen...
for the record, it had not killed anyone at that point.
Yes, there was not evidentiary support that death by chip could occur.
Yeah.
I actually still have one of those is it Pack-Ow? I don't know.
You got to get rid of that.
It's in my
it's
pantry.
It's probably illegal at this point or something.
It's in my pantry still. But hey, maybe if there's a big event going on, we probably should have done one for Super Bowl. That would have been fun.
Yeah.
But if maybe there's a big event over the summer that you feel like you want to get crazy, we can get into it.
Yeah, but you got to throw that away. I would never do that to you. People be dying from that, man. No chance.
Well, don't eat was it multiple chips? I don't remember.
I don't remember
but
exactly
anyways,
what it is.
Death by chip did occur.
Yes. They're off the shelves. We'll put it that way. They're no longer. You probably resell that thing for
it can turn
we're not going to do that.
The one that I got turned your tongue blue too. So not only are you absolutely miserable, but you look kind of funky too, and your teeth turn blue and all of the things. Anyways, we
did have. You know who the Saints should have a quarterback?
Who?
I'm being serious. People think I'm joking. I think you just let Jameis go to town. I'm being dead serious.
Eating W's all day.
Listen, I'm being dead serious. There is no upside at all with Carr. And at least Jameis knows the offense. He's a free agent. He could end up. He could sign anywhere. But I think you could get him super cheap for the Saints. He's been there. He knows the offense. And at least he has a little YOLO in him.
Yes, but too much. Because if you're getting Jameis, you're getting the high highs and the very, very low lows as well. But the consistency is nil.
But there is no high highs with Carr, and there's still low lows.
Then either way, you're still going to middle out.
I don't know, man.
Am I wrong?
I don't know. I would rather go down swinging than going down in a little slap fight. You know what I'm saying? Did
you see the video of him, by the way, with the Barstool guys on that podcast where he was giving the explainer behind him eating W's and how that came to be?
I did not. I saw him talk about Mike Evans and why Mike Evans was different because he was from Galveston. Did you happen to see?
And I missed that clip.
Did you happen to see that one?
What's that one?
Because he said people that live near the water, they're just different, and was explaining that Mike Evans was from Galveston. Yeah, was from Galveston. And he's like, man, those people live near the water because the water water don't care about you. Yeah, the water don't care about you, and all this stuff. It's like, all right, you know what? It's something to think about anyway.
Yeah, well, the eating the W's started with Jameis from eating alphabet soup and, just always wanted to get the W's and then
again, it gives you something to think about, right? It gives you something to think about.
He is a character.
Yes.
We did get a little bit of news, though, here over the last half an hour. There was a report last week that Russell Wilson had his mansion up for sale. I don't think that's a surprise of anybody. We've been talking about this since he was benched in December. The expectation is that the Broncos are going to release Russell Wilson, and Jeremy Fowler reported a little bit ago that he expects this to be as soon as next week, potentially, that Russ could be out the door.
Yeah, and actually, honestly, that's good for kind of all of us because then we can start to see again. March 13th is the date there for free agency to start, and so, hey, this is good for us from a betting standpoint. We can start to clear the air a little bit. Where will he land, or at least what teams are interested, right? I mean, we'll start to trickle out, and as soon as we can narrow that bunch down and try and figure out where the most likely landing spot is and then a secondary landing spot for him, then we can start to formulate. We were just talking about the draft betting market, right? I mean, what if we were saying the Raiders are in play to maybe draft a quarterback. The Broncos are in play to maybe draft a quarterback. We're looking at some of these other teams that maybe could draft a quarterback. Well, what if he ends up, I don't think he will, but what if he signs with the Falcons? So now the Falcons are off the table at drafting quarterback at 8 and whatever. So it starts to clear the air at least a little bit. And you talk about those over-unders, right, with McCarthy. Well, what if they set it at, 14.5 or 15.5, and now you have to try to decipher, well, where's Russ going to land? Because that takes one of the teams out of the equation and whatever. So we can start to do the NFL draft math a little bit.
Love it. And it is good to know, too, that next week with the Combine getting underway, yes, there's going to be a lot of talk about the prospects and the weigh-ins and the measurements and all of these different things, but because
hand sizes,
huge topic.
It's a big thing.
The underwear Olympics.
Yes.
But as everybody is gathered in these rooms and around each other and GMs and all these people around, we're going to find out a lot of news about things like this. And there's the reports that the Bears are going to have a plan in place by the combine for what they want to do with Justin Fields. Like a lot of things from a free agency standpoint are going to start to trickle out through the time that they're at the combine. For Russell Wilson, the Steelers are a -225 favorite where things sit right now. You said from a value standpoint, the +550 with the Raiders seems attractive.
It's interesting.
Interesting.
At least interesting. Hey, do you want to lock up some money for an entire calendar year?
Wait, so you wouldn't get this cashed?
No. I'm about to tell you another bet that I put in my account. Do you want to lock up some money for an entire calendar year?
If it's worthwhile.
Yeah, well, I put in an MVP bet already.
Already?
I did.
Who you got?
I put in one for Jared Goff.
I had one last year for Jared Goff that I thought had a chance for a minute.
You can find 35-ish, 40-ish to 1 tickets out there on Jared Goff. And if you go in and you look, and like we said, the team is going to be good. 4,575 passing yards last year. That was second in the NFL. 30 touchdowns was fourth in the NFL. 269 yards per game was third in the NFL. He had a 67% completion percentage. Fifth graded passer in the NFL last season by Pro Football Focus of any quarterback with at least 400 dropbacks. He had an offensive line that was 8th in pass blocking and 2nd in run blocking. We talked about now you get year 2 of Gibbs, year 2 of Laporta. Laporta as a rookie, by the way, was already one of only 6 tight ends that got 100 targets. So now he's just going to be a bigger part of this offense as it is anyway.
Yeah, he was awesome.
You already have Amon-Ra St. Brown, the number 6 graded wide receiver in all of the NFL, coming back. And then, as we mentioned, you get that first full season of Jameson Williams, who was an absolute stud in college, and everyone was very, very excited about him coming in the NFL. Came off that injury, never really got going after that, and then got suspended for, placing a parlay. And then so he has not been with this team for a full season yet. So now your first full season of Jameson Williams. And so
if they play good defense and
he's at least going to be in the discussion.
Sure.
If you're holding a 40 to 1, then you can figure out a way to monetize it.
And that is
right?
what the number is at DraftKings right now too. So good to know. Generally speaking though, what is your feel on the Lions this coming year? Because I feel like they got over the hump, right? They finally made the playoffs. They got to host playoff games. Their fan base was on a ride. Thank goodness that they kept Dan Campbell around after the disasters that were the first 2 years of him, because he built something special. What's their ceiling this year?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I honestly think the ceiling is the Super Bowl. Yeah. I am fully expecting them to heavily invest on the defensive side of the ball. There's really no need to do anything on the offensive side. Sure, you could make a couple of vanity plays later in the draft or something like that. Maybe you pick up a veteran guy on the offensive side of the ball for cheap. But outside of that, I mean, Josh Reynolds is going to be gone in free agency, so you could look for another option at wide receiver or something. But for me, I think if you really and truly go in and attack that secondary, maybe get you another linebacker, you have a pretty good defensive line as it is anyway, and then also the run defense, which was under the radar, pretty good. Top 10 run defense unit. It's just you could just pass on them all day long. I honestly think it is. And you have a 40 to 1 ticket on Goff, and he puts himself in the conversation, then you can monetize that thing. You are going to be able to figure out a way to make money with all that. So
I'd rather have the 40 to 1 with Goff than the 12 to 1 with the Lions preseason. If you're picking one, get the longer shot that you can. But on this odds board to win the Super Bowl, are there a couple teams that stand out to you at the odds presented currently?
I told you I like the Rams. I think I'm a little bit more bullish on the Rams than anything else. I mean, what McVay and them were able to do. I know you
said that you liked them a lot. I didn't know Super Bowl contending.
What they were able to do last year with what was widely considered to be a bottom 3 defensive unit heading into the year, and then ended up being league average. And so again, I expect them to address that. Their offense, shockingly, they don't have to really worry with that. I mean, you got Stafford coming back. Puka Nacua emerged as a real threat on the offensive side. You get a full year of Cooper Kupp coming back off of that injury, and then Kyren Williams. So I mean, the offense is there. Mm-hmm. You get a little bit more defense, and obviously we believe in this coaching staff. So I think the Rams are at least fairly interesting.
Dan Campbell is a great coach. Sean McVay, an excellent coach. I think that when you have some of those other parts of it too, it's not only the team, but a coach that gets the best out of their team and makes them better than what their talent might be on paper.
McVay proved it last year.
For sure. Absolutely.
For sure.
But yeah, Michael Lombardi has said numerous times throughout the course of the year that he thought this was the best coaching job, in the league, and that Sean McVay was remarkable this year. That's it for us today. A huge thank you to our guy Matt for stepping in for Michael today. Stephanie Kamershak at the controls as our producer. Sharp Money is up next on VSiN, and stick around on DraftKings Network as well for more great programming.